Okay. Thank you to Marigold for hosting this for everybody out there, and thank you for coming and joining your evening with me. So tonight we're going to look at homeschooling in Alberta, and particularly for this year, 2008-2019. So this is presented through Alberta Homeschooling Association, and my name is Judy Arnell, and I teach child development is my real career, and my other real career is homeschooling my kids. And it's in my, I'm in my 20th year this year, so the first year was really a huge learning curve for me, but I have lots to share with you, and as Haley said, we'll just leave questions till the end. So with Alberta Homeschooling Association, we have a handbook that we did this year, and it's called the Happy Homeschooling Handbook, and it's everything you want to know. It's not board specific, so it is helpful advice. And I've also released a book called Unschooling to University, and it kind of, hello, it's about unschooling, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And we have a Facebook group called Alberta Homeschooling. It's got 1,700 members now, and if you need questions answered, your question will be answered by lots of experience on there. And I think parenting is one of the hardest jobs in the world. I think every parent should have a tip jar on their kitchen table. I did this once, and I got quarters, and then I put a wife's tip jar in the laundry room, and I put a $50 bill in there, you know, and I didn't get anything there, so I don't do laundry anymore in my house. And I think teachers should have a tip jar on their desk at school too, because it's a really tough job. It is. It's very hard for teachers. So, so my presentation tonight is, let's just assume you want to leave all the doors open for your kids, right? You don't know where they're going to go to after they finish school, so you want to just leave doors open for whatever their talents and interests are. Okay, so here's the meat. So in Alberta education, you basically have 4 choices, as you probably already know if your kids are in school, right? So the big choice here is public or Catholic system, or the private system, or the charter system, or home education, okay? Now online can be through all 4 of those systems, but basically that's your choice, right? Hi! Now, you're here because you're interested in one of those choices, which is home education, okay? So, some of these don't really apply to what I'm going to talk about tonight. Now, Alberta education system is based on outcomes. So there's not really a curriculum, even in school. Everybody talks about curriculum, but basically it's the target we're looking at. So for example, in grade 9, there are outcomes every grade 9 student has to meet. Now, however you meet those outcomes is all over the place. You can do anything you want to meet those outcomes, whether you're in a charter school, whether you're in a public school, private school. Every student has those outcomes, except for home education, okay? In home education, we have a lot more flexibility. We can meet those outcomes, which we call the Alberta Programs of Study, or we can meet the home education outcomes for students that are not following the Alberta Programs of Study. Okay? So, and where do people learn? At the Inspiring Education talks, this was coming out from those talks in 2009, 2011 from the government. And kids learn everywhere. As you can see, there's a whole, it's not just school and it's not just home, but they learn from a lot of places, right? Okay, so basically there's 3 ways to get an education. And I like to use a little analogy of a buffet, okay? So let's pretend this is your buffet here. And on the buffet, there's all kinds of foods. There's broccoli, and there's chocolate, and there's cake, and there's spaghetti, and whatever. So education is like a buffet. So let's say your child is standing at the buffet table with a plate, okay? And right next to next to them standing is an adult. And let's say it's a school, right? So the school is comprised of teachers, principals, hello, and welcome, government administrators, curriculum developers, and they all decide what goes on your child's plate from this buffet, okay? So they decide how much of things go on in the sequence and what they get to choose. So school is controlled by school. Now in home education, it's the parent who decides what goes on that child's plate. Okay, so the parent controls it. And then in unschooling, which is a subset of homeschooling, it's the child who decides what goes on their plate on the buffet table. Okay, so education is no longer where it takes place, whether it's home, school, community. It depends on who controls it. That's the big differences, okay? So even though your child's taking an online course in your home, would you say that's school or is that home ed? That's school, because it's controlled by the school, totally, okay? Other than the heating in the room and things like that. And home education is totally controlled by the parent. And unschooling is controlled by the child. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you want control, you want to control how much bullying your kids get, how much homework they get, how much paperwork and coursework they get. You want to choose home education. Okay. If you don't want to control all that, you just want to offset it to the school, choose school or online. Okay. And if you want to unschool, you can let that go too. Make sense? Okay. Alrighty. So why choose home education? Parents now are choosing home education for all those reasons. Bullying is right up there at the top of the list. Some kids have special needs that are not being met. That's why I pulled my kids out. Academic delays, and they're not getting their needs met, or they're academically advanced and they're not getting their needs met because, you know, they're both continuum of the classroom. Maybe busing issues. Busing is too far. Maybe they want a more faith-based curriculum. Some families come to my talks now and they have little babies, but they want to go travel, which is really cool. And medical concerns, scheduling, or just the current school situation. So there's unique reasons, and they're all pretty valid. Now I'm not going to cover the history of home ed, other than it really started about 1988, and that's 30 years ago. 30 years ago this year, and it is growing quite a lot. So as you can see, there's the stats for Alberta. So home education is growing, online is growing, and shared responsibility is kind of hanging in there. And I'll tell you what that is later. Okay. Evidence. So if you have skeptical relatives, point them to the Fraser Institute. So they did 2 reports. They did one in 2007 and one in 2015. The 2015 one is more Canadian focused, and there's lots of good evidence in there. Their highlights are that the average homeschool child has 8 social activities a week. They do academically better than private school. And it's growing. Home education is growing, and there's no socioeconomic bias, so that it doesn't matter the income level of the family, everybody does well. So if you're not feeling confident in your ability to home educate, believe me, you can't mess it up. You really can't mess it up. Okay, so don't worry, you're not playing with your child's future. Okay, so in Canada, there's about 2% of the school age population homeschools. So we're still kind of small. So what do you do? Okay, first step is, let's say it's mid-year, it's November now, you want to pull your child out this year. What you have to do is notify your school. So you fill out a notification form, and it's not an application form. You're not applying, you're notifying. So you don't ask for permission, you can do it. You absolutely have that right. But it's nice to let your school know that's what you're going to do. Okay. Now, if past September 30th is what we call count date. That's the day the government counts which students are enrolled with which school authority and base the funding on that. So technically that school owns your child for the year. All right? So you can continue home educating with that school authority and then wait until the next summer to switch if you want to switch. You do not have to stay with your local school authority. There's about 25 school authorities across the province you can register with. So if you live in Lethbridge and you want to register with a school authority in Vermilion, you can do that. Okay, you're not restricted to your local one. Okay, but you should do it by September 30th if you want funding for that year. Next up, you have to pick your school authority. Let's say it's the middle of summer and you're not registered anymore with the school, then you have to pick one for the following fall. Alberta is one of the most regulated provinces for home education. There's 3 things you have to do in Alberta that you don't have to do anywhere else. One is you have to notify. Second one is you have to file a learning plan of what you're going to do. And the third one is you have to accept that a certificated teacher is going to come to your house twice a year and assess your child. Okay? That's the privilege of living in Alberta. Okay, so you have to pick a school authority to supervise you. You can save your receipts because you get funding based on receipts. If you decide to anytime put your child back in the system, you just slot them into the grade for their age. So let's say you decide to pull them out for grade 10, you don't like it, it's not working for you, and you put them back in the next year, they just go right into grade 11 or whatever grade, right? Pick up courses. There's also no funding for homeschool kindergarten. And that's something our organization is hoping to change, but there isn't, because kindergarten in Alberta is voluntary. Yeah. So there are some common school authorities that register. So on the left are the big public trustee school boards, okay? On the right tend to be more private schools, and there's advantages and disadvantages with each, okay? That's probably the biggest decision that homeschooling families have to make is who to pick. And it's not our job to recommend anyone, but talk to people, find out what they like about it, what they dislike, because it's more to get a good fit with your child. So if you have younger kids and you want them to get out and make friends and have a lot of activities and field trips and things, you might want to go with more of the larger ones that have that infrastructure and funding to have a lot of field trips and offer a lot of programming. If you have teenagers who tend to, I don't want to do that anymore, right? You might want to register with the private schools where there's not so much field trips and programming, but there are, most of their facilitators have homeschooled their own kids through the high school years, which is kind of helpful to know when you need advice during that, because high school is a whole new ballgame for grades 1 to 9, okay? Any of you have have high school age kids that you're looking for information?
No.
No.
I have a high school age kid.
Yeah, but
Okay. Okay, next step. What's your philosophy of education? Okay, so everybody has a different philosophy. Some people like very school-like type programming, some like classical, some like unschooling. So what's your philosophy on learning, and what, more importantly, what's your child's philosophy? How do they learn? Do they learn through hands-on activities?
I don't know.
Or do they learn through, you know, school type delivery? Okay, so it depends on your delivery. So there are all different philosophies there you can do. So remember, on home education, it's your ballgame. You get to do whatever you want. Okay, you do not have to follow the Alberta program studies, so you can pick any one of those. Okay, next you have to pick a program. So you've got your school authority, you kind of thought about your philosophy, now you have to pick a program. Okay, so the big umbrella program is homeschooling, but within there's 3 different program types. Okay, so the first type is what we call traditional. If I walk around, does that affect the mic? The sound? Or should I stay
As long
here?
as you're not too far from that general front area, it should be okay.
Yeah? Where is the mic?
On the camera.
Okay. All right. Okay, so your program, when you hear people talk about traditional, that's total parent-led, parent home education, okay? Or let's say you don't like math and science. Let's say you hate math and science. You can outsource those 2 subjects to the school. And you love English and social and phys ed and all that stuff. You can teach that. Okay? So then you might want to go to shared responsibility, which is half and half. Or in high school, it can be 20-80%. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Okay? So that's half and half. And then, but if you outsource everything, if you do online, not you, but if your child does online or paper-based or teacher-directed or aligned or what are those other terms we call it? That means they're in school. Okay, so that's not home education anymore. That is school, and that's covered through the school authority. Okay?
Come on, it's too close to bedtime.
Aww. So will your child get a high school diploma? Yes, they will on all 3 programs. Okay? Absolutely. So, so don't worry about that. I think picking the program decides on, again, how much control you want, what your child does. So for example, my child is not an online learner, right? So online is out for him. Paper-based kind of works, but I'm finding that paper-based isn't really paper-based, it's more online. And home ed is more kid aesthetic, more field trips. We can do more of that flexibility, so that meets the needs for my unique learner that way, okay? So distance education is the school plans, they buy, they deliver, and they mark all your child's work. The parent does not get any funding or give marks because that is not home education, it's school. Okay? Okay. Which one do you pick? It depends on your child, really, and control. So, I'm not going to talk about that. How much time does it take? All right. So in elementary, homeschooling takes about 10 to 30 minutes a day. That's about it. I know. You say, why don't I send my child to school for 6 hours? But if you look at it, you have one teacher, 30 kids. basically that child's getting 1 hour of that teacher time for the whole week because they have to share with 30 other kids, right? So somebody described it to me as if you have a dinner party for 20 people, you're going to put some prep into that, aren't you? You are going to plan your menu, you're going to go to the store, you're going to shop, you're going to come home and cook and prepare, and then you're going to set the table really nice, and then you have your dinner party, and then you have all this cleanup to do, right? It's a lot of work for 20 people, absolutely. But if it's just you and your partner at home, you make a sandwich, you eat it over the sink, you're done. That's what homeschooling is like, right? You're only dealing with 1 or 2 children. Absolutely. So it takes way less time. Mind you, you spend time reading and going on field trips, so that doesn't really count. Junior high, about 1 hour a day, and high school is 2 to 3 hours a day, depending on how many core courses. That's based on probably 2 cores in the high school and options. So your kids have a lot more time on their hands, which is good, I think. A lot of homeschoolers never finish a year. We start out in September with the best intentions, and we're like, okay, we mark it out what we're going to do and things, and then life hits you, right? You got an unexpected trip, somebody gets sick, you got company, life happens, you move, right? And you don't, as humans, we procrastinate, we let things go, and a lot of people never finish their year, and the next year you just start in the next grade and carry on, and the kids still learn, so it's not that bad. All right, and then step 5 is choosing curriculum. So you remember I said Alberta is outcome-based. So outcome is like those targets you have to hit, and you decide how you're going to hit them. All right, so I would recommend if you're starting out homeschooling, don't go to those curriculum fairs where you'll buy way more stuff than you need. Find out how your child learns. Do they learn best through going on field trips, through travel, through videos on the internet? At best, get a library card. Library is your best friend, and internet access. And you can find a lot of what you need through that. In my introduction, I didn't tell you about my kids, but I have 5 children. We pulled my kids out of school in grade 2 because the oldest one had a learning disability and wasn't getting what he needed. So we pulled the grade 2 and the grade 1er out, and then the other 3 just carried on homeschooling. They didn't even try school, right? So we unschooled for about 10 years. So they played and played and played and played. And then about high school age, we started getting more serious and saying, well, what do you want to do for a career? Do you want to go? Where do you want to go? 3 of my kids wanted to go into STEM careers. One went into English, and my baby right now is 16, and he plays a lot of Fortnite. And is sort of working his way through high school self-directed. But my STEM kids, the biggest thing that helped them was Khan Academy videos. And a lot of the resources through the library. It's amazing what you can access online on your own, right? So don't buy too much curriculum. Keep it easy. And as you know, in school, there's those subject areas. That's more for elementary. So you might want to cover some of those, but it's really flexible. Maybe you don't want to do language arts. So for example, my son now, we have done grade 10 to 12, English and social. We've done no math and science. We've just concentrated on English and social for a year and a half. And then we're going to get all his options and phys ed and comm and things. And then I'm going to send him to a upgrading school to do his math and sciences because he doesn't do online. And I don't know how to teach math. My math ends at grade 8. So again, super flexible, right? So in homeschooling, I said you can follow the Alberta Program of Studies, which has about 1,400 outcomes per grade. Check, 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 check. Or you could follow these 22 outcomes to get done by the time they're 20. Okay, so that is what you can choose if you want to go home ed. I actually have a list of these if you want them, and pick this up when you want. But they're very vague. As you can see, the first one, for language arts, read for information, understanding, and enjoyment. Write and speak clearly, accurately, and appropriately for the context. Is that pretty open-ended? Very open-ended. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's meant to be very flexible. So anything your child does, if your child does nothing but play Minecraft all day, they will cover all those outcomes. Okay? So you can't go wrong. Okay, what about math? Well, math is all around us. As you can see by my crackers here, this is x squared plus 4x plus 3. And baking. Kids learn math everywhere through playing Battleship, through lemonade stands, through selling Girl Guide cookies. Absolutely. So math is pretty easy. Reading again too. Reading is, we live in a very literate society and most kids learn to read on their own. They often don't have to be taught. So it's very rare that kids don't pick up reading, but not necessarily at age 6. So in Alberta, every child at the end of grade 1 is expected to read. But developmentally, we know that's not true, right? My readers were age 8, 6, 4, 9, and 10. That's when they started to read. Now, if my 10-year-old was in the system and he didn't read till grade 5, he'd have probably remedial classes, he'd have self-esteem issues, all those kinds of things. But when he's at home, I can protect him from that. And he's not feeling like he's, deficient because he's not reading. So I could protect his self-esteem there. Science and social is great. It's so much fun to do at home because they can do experiments and science is all around us in the world. You can go travel off season, go visit places. That's my youngest son, and we were at Dachau work camp in Munich. Very good. So online courses in the home starts about grade 4 now. Yeah, it used to be grade 7, but grade 4 now. Where can you get hands-on materials? This is more for Calgary, but you can order them from Scholar's Choice. All these stores have online ordering. You can go to curriculum fairs. There's lots of ways to buy things. Okay, now this is, I might go through this real quick. Okay, so you don't have to use workbooks. Young kids don't like workbooks. They are still in play mode and the 3D world. So anything you can do hands-on is really, really good, right? So for example, math, you can use a game to teach multiplication tables, right? Games are fun, kids learn through games. You can go to a park. I don't know if you have those school playgrounds where they have grids on the pavement. You can go there and you can let them jump on the pavement. Or you can teach them times tables through music. Or you can teach them geometry through pattern blocks, or Lego, or anything they can count. So there's lots of materials. I find these things are more expensive than books, right? So if you're getting funding, buying Lego is, it eats up your dollars a lot faster than textbooks and workbooks. Okay, so there's lots of ways to teach. Step 6 is find a support group or a mentor that can help you. You're going to have a few bad days at home, but you're going to have a few bad days if your kids go to school too. But you kind of need a support system there. That's the most common question we get is, what about socialization? And as you can see, kids find friends anywhere, absolutely anywhere. So they're not just met at school, and I think homeschooling gives kids more openness to diversity and different, as you can see, they socialize with different ages, genders, cultures, religions, abilities. Their kids are very open and inclusive, especially when parents are there to help them mentor that. Peers, not so well always nurturing. I like to use the tree analogy to explain. I always get questions, well, they have to experience the real world sometime, and there's bullying in the real world, and I'm like, oh. And then I use the tree analogy that if you stake a tree while it's growing, so it stands up tall and strong, right? Yes, you're adding that layer of protection. So in homeschooling, there's a lot of adults around in groups of kids to monitor what they do and catch it right at the time. Whereas if you send your child to school, you only hear about it at the supper table, right? So there are adults around to help them coach and to help that tree grow up really straight and strong, so that when they get the winds, when they're adults, they can withstand that. So the difference between a tree that's strong, straight and tall, and a tree that's bent over and gnarly from the winds growing up in that. So kids do get some amount of bullying, but it is very small and mitigated by adults around. So you'll be assigned a facilitator from your school authority, and your facilitator has to be a certified teacher, and he or she may be a homeschooling parent. So if so, that's great, because then you get a lot of advice. But again, everybody homeschools different, right? I'm an unschooler. When I get a facilitator who's a very school at homer, I need her to support my way of doing things, because it's my ball game, it's my control. So your facilitator should be your partner in education. They're not your boss or your supervisor. They're there to support you, and if you don't feel supported, you can change your facilitator, ask for a change, and go up the food chain. Appeal to the principal. If that doesn't work, maybe switch boards the next year. Okay, they are there to support. So you'll have a fall visit, and that's the time that you usually do a learning plan. So a learning plan is, I don't have a sample there. It's a one-page plan of what you're going to do in the year, what you're going to buy with resources, and how you're going to assess your child. Okay? So as unschoolers, we're very basic. So in my learning plan under science, I might put something like, may do a lot of experiments this year as my child's curiosity demands it. And then I'll put down under resources, Lego. As you guess, we love Lego. And then under evaluation, I'll put down photographs and observation. So I'll show my facilitator all the photographs of the Lego we made, right? So that's science. So that's what we do for a learning plan. And in the spring visit, they come out again, and then they look at your learning plan, and then they say, wow, this looks great. Did you build anything with Lego? And my child will show them all the things they built with Lego, and I will give them the photographs, and that's assessment, okay? There is no testing on home education. None, okay? Unless you want it. And if you want testing, you can definitely get your kids to write the PATs. If you want your child to have marks and credits in high school subjects, they'll have to write the same diploma exams as every other child in Alberta, okay, in those core subjects. So those are ways you can assess: photos, videos, certificates, writing samples, projects. And parents give the assessment. You don't have to give marks. You don't have to give a letter grade. You could just say, yeah, my child's progressing. Okay, so super duper easy. Now, if your child's online or distance education, again, is that parent or is that school? school. So the school will give exams and the school will give marks. Okay, good. So yeah, there's no testing. These are things I did for high school. So when I never thought I'd homeschool through high school, but my kids would not go into the system. So what we did is we did parent-directed high school. So these are each courses my son did. This is Phys Ed 30, Special Projects 30, Foods 30, English 30, and Social 30. So what we did was a course proposal of what he would do, for example, Phys Ed, and then we went and did it for the year. And then at the end of the year, we did a course evaluation, just a one-page thing, and we provided a bit of evidence of what he did. And then we gave a suggested mark, and then that goes to the facilitator, and they evaluate it and say, yeah, that fits the mark, and then they report the marks and credits. And that's how we do parent-directed high school. Okay. Yeah, and in the spring visit, you kind of plan for next year. What are your goals for your child for next year? That's my youngest. Doesn't that look like fun? A relaxed day. Actually, he doesn't get up till 2 each day. That's another thing. If kids can sleep in, oh, they are so much better. They're not cranky, and I think it grows their brain. Like if they don't have to get up for an 8 a.m. school start, that's a huge benefit for older kids. So that's how we kind of get organized. We had a lot of bookcases in our house because you have a lot of books and stuff, craft materials and things. And then I put all my administration stuff for my 5 kids. I still had that through university in those drawers, but you set up your systems. And this is just anecdotal. My kids don't remember much before age 12. So the year we did school at home, the first year of homeschooling, I did all these experiments and we went on these field trips, and I thought, oh, it's just gonna all, sit there in their brain, and then 2 years later, they don't remember doing any of that stuff. I could have just plunked you in front of the TV for 12 years. But I'm sure it built their brain cells, but they don't remember the content. Now, if you have a child with special needs, they can be coded if you have a psych ed report or an assessment, but there's no extra funding on home education for special needs. They would have to be on the Alberta Program of Studies, the school programming to get extra funding. And by the time my kids got to university, I found the universities needed a assessment within 3 years anyway, so we kind of did our assessment in grade 12. Okay, now homeschooling feels like you're stepping off a cliff. It is like you're walking into the unknown. It's really scary the first year. But if you think about it, it's only for a year. You're not going to mess them up for 1 year. I never thought I would be homeschooling for 20 years. Never, never, right? You just take it year by year and see how it comes. Make sure you get peer and board support. And believe me, you can't stop kids from learning. And basically, we all homeschool our kids until age 6. Every person in Alberta does. Okay? I might cover a little bit about high school. What are the benefits? Well, kids grow up with confidence and self-esteem. They get a lot of sleep. They're a lot more relaxed. They have time for their interests that they want to do. A lot of unstructured time. This is one thing I noticed. They very close siblings. My kids are ranging in age from 16 to 27, and they live in different cities, but they all get together over Discord channel and chat and play games together. And in fact, the 16-year-old and the 27, which has an 11-year age difference, are the ones that get together the most, which is nice because it's not like in school, oh, you're in grade 8, I'm in grade 9, I'm not talking to you. Right? So now I'm not saying they didn't fight, of course they fight, they're siblings, right? But they also have lots of opportunities to play together. Family is the focus, not peers. And close relationships too with parents and kids, absolutely. They learn good work habits, they have a love of learning, they have good social skills because they interact with people through the week, not just in school or teachers. They interact with the doctor, the lab, people in stores, banks, you name it, right? So it's more a one-on-one education. Okay, and that's my gang. So 3 are university graduates. 1 is in university right now, and my baby is playing Fortnite. So I want to just quickly, we got some time before questions. So I don't know who's out there that is worried about high school. So do you want to sit through like 10 minutes of high school? Okay, thank you. Okay, so there's high school options. So you can go 2 ways in high school. You can either go the home education route, which is parent controlled, or you can go school route, school controlled. So let's start here. So that would be online or physical classes, right? And they get their course outcomes, they get 100 credits, they graduate. This way, through home ed, you can go 2 routes too. So the first route is complete 12 years of education under the solo outcomes. That's those 20 outcomes, okay? They probably won't get a diploma because they're not doing Alberta Program of Studies coursework, okay? But they're getting through their education until they're 19. The other way is to meet the course outcomes for what they need to do to get their 100 credits. And it's under Section 6 of the Home Ed regulations, and they can graduate with a diploma. Okay, so that's either parent-taught or it's self-taught. Okay, absolutely. So a high school diploma is not necessary for post-secondary entrance. It's nice to have. It's nice to get a job. A lot of employers ask for it. But for university or college entrances, most kids need the 4 cores at grade 12 and an option. And depending on the program, like if they're going into engineering, they need 6 cores. Okay? So, and they probably need good marks. So when they apply for post-secondary, they fill out 1 application at Apply Alberta, and then they apply for 5 colleges and universities across Canada, and those colleges pull that application up. So when your kids apply, they just put in biology 30, the mark, English 30-1, the mark, math 30-2, the mark. That's all the universities see. They don't see volunteering, they don't see community involvement, they don't see how nice a person you are, they just see those 5 courses and marks. Yeah, so that's what we did is we looked at where our kids' strengths were in high school, where they needed help. Where they needed help, they actually took the course. Where their strengths were, they just did enough to demonstrate their competency, write the diploma exams, and move on, okay? Now, each high school course is about 1 to 5 credits. So each credit is 25 hours. So if they're doing 5 credits for English 10, they would need to do about 125 hours of demonstrated study in that course, okay? Yeah. Okay. We used to have we do have an upgrading school in Calgary called Chinook. Is anyone familiar with that? No? Yeah. So a lot of homeschoolers go there if they need a classroom course, but they don't want the whole school experience. So they go and pick up 1 course kind of thing. Okay, I'm not going to talk about that. So I found personally it was more flexible to do a high school under home education because you can customize it to your students' interests. Whereas an online course has written in stone assignments, but if you know what type of learner your child is, you can really make it funner, I think. Don't want to do Hamlet? Okay, you could do Othello, or you make that choice rather than a teacher, right? Which is kind of nice. Okay, here we did food studies. All my kids did food because I thought, hey, I'm sick of cooking. They need to start. So they would make something. We would put the course number. So that was foods 3050, which is a grade 12 course. And she made cabbage pie and we took a picture and there's your evidence, right? And then we would log the time they spent doing that. And then she would get credits for food science, okay? ADLC offers high school courses. They offer paper-based or online, but keep in mind that is school. That is not parent-controlled, that's school-controlled. So they have a lot of courses. And I was talking about the classroom at Chinook. Another option too, which we did, was we found some parents that had kids the same age. Actually, we're doing that right now. My son's in English 30, the 16-year-old. And we found 7 other kids doing English 20, English 30. So the parents and I were doing a co-op. So we're doing kind of a discussion group with the kids. We booked the library. Yay, library! The library room once a week. And we get together for 2 hours. And it's a social time for them. And we watch movies, read books, and discuss them. It's like a teenage book club. And then we count some of that instructional time in the high school courses. So you could do that. Or you could hire a tutor to teach the kids too. It's kind of fun. Okay, what else? That's pretty well. You can purchase the textbooks from Amazon if you want. You can hire a tutor to teach it. Yeah. Okay, so after age 20, kids could just write the diploma exams. They don't need the course if they want. If they're really strong in the course. So biology, social studies, English are all standalone courses, which means you don't need grade 10 and 11 to do those courses. You could just do the grade 12 course and the exam, right? So we need flexibility. So for example, my daughter had never taken an English course, but she's always been passionate about writing. She's reads prolifically, she writes. She wrote that book. She's written 4 books. And she didn't need to take a course. Obviously, that would be just busy work for her. So what we did was she wrote 4 essays, 2 personal response, 2 critical analysis essays, got her course mark, and she got 84% in the diploma exam. She's out of there, right? So in home ed, you want to take what your child's doing and you want to turn it into marks and credits and get validated for what they're doing. Pretty well. And you get to do special projects, which is fun. And that's geared to their interests. So that's 5 credits for grade 10, 5 credits 11 and 12, right? So we did a lot of traveling. My kids did a basement renovation. One child did a computer, built a gaming computer from watching YouTube videos. Got 5 credits for that. My daughter, she wrote a novel, got 5 credits. This is NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month in November. So she did that. She got another 5 credits for the editing of the novel. One child got 5 credits for reading an entire book series of, forget his name. He had 40 books though, but yeah. So whatever their interests are, they get marks and credits for it in high school. That's not offered too much in school. No, you probably don't even know about that, right?
No.
Yeah, see? Yeah, so if you have a dancer in your family and they do all extracurricular dancing, this is a way for them to get a credit for that. right? They're putting a lot of effort into it. Same with work experience. So we take our teens to the food bank, and you have to fill out a few forms and you have to have supervision, but they can get another 5 credits that way too through volunteering or job. You can do that in home ed. So diploma exams, again, like I said, if it is parent controlled or child controlled, you can still write the diploma exams, get your marks and credits, get out of there. And it's very flexible. Like we take 5 years to do high school, right? We do age 15, age 16, 17, 18, and 19, that we can spread it out so they can concentrate on one course at a time and do really well. You can do that. Or you can do it in 2 years too. Whatever. Super flexible. And again, more benefits. Okay. So, hey, that's pretty good. One more time. Now, I would love to take questions. So if anyone has questions, thank you for coming. And we have a lot more information at albertahomeschooling.ca.